Chinatown has always been a place for people to live, eat, and hang out. This section of Washington, D.C. has been often overlooked, but it increasingly represents a struggle between culture and business. Originally located along Pennsylvania Avenue, the small area of Asian immigrants was uprooted in the 1930s to the area around 7th Street and 8th Street, where it began a path of transformation into what it is now.
Back then, there definitely used to be a lot of the buildings were raggedy. They were very old, and they weren't nearly as illuminated as it is right now. And a lot of the building was actually, we didn't have all these buildings, as tall buildings back then. So there's been a lot of changes, definitely.
We only have some Papa Mama store and one family restaurant. And that time you have almost the same amount of store, but it's a different kind of store. That time you have laundry, you have a small restaurant. Right now,
in the past, there used to be a couple of Chinese markets. There was one called Daiwa, and now it's closed down. They're changing it to an Italian restaurant, I think. And that used to be a place where people could come and buy Chinese groceries and not have to travel all the way out to Maryland, Virginia to get them.
As a matter of fact, just about all the businesses were family owned by different families, and there were grocery stores. They had several grocery stores, several gift shops, and quite a few restaurants. And I guess over the years, as when they built the metro subway system there, it brought a little more traffic to it, and Chinatown flourished somewhat.
Beginning in the late 1980s, Chinatown saw increased growth and development, which led to drastic changes within the community.
Since the 90s, when they have the mass development of the shopping malls and office buildings, and all the franchises moved in, and all the mom and pop stores moved out, and it has now become more or less a business center for people coming to shop to buy things, not Chinese goods now, but things like sneakers, clothing stores, bars.
So this area right now is famous on food. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just in Chinatown, you can taste all kind of food. Italian food, quick hamburgers, quick service. You can try the seafood, the steakhouse. We have everything right now.
As Chinatown further developed in the 90s, property taxes increased and local businesses began to disappear.
It's become more of American town because I phrase it that way because there are not in a lot of Chinese restaurants anymore, and a lot of them have closed down. And if you look around with Fuddruckers, McDonald's, Urban Outfitters, although they bring in profit and everything to Chinatown, and even though they might have the Chinese characters on them, that isn't a part of Chinatown what it used to be.
There used to be a lot of local or Chinese families, and they used to have houses in I streets. Some of them used to live in Wallach House, the apartment, and then there was some that used to live in 6th Street. But a lot of these other places has been, maybe the owner decided, hey, I can get more for my money. They sell for these big developers, and they cash out, basically.
Well, the rent is so high that it's hard to afford a place to live down in Chinatown. So the only people who can actually live down here are people who make six-figure income or commercial establishment like franchises.
Despite a communal sense of Chinatown losing what makes it unique, some feel the new businesses and large-scale construction bring certain benefits to the area.
It helped the Chinese businesses because a lot of the restaurants today weren't there before when MCI Center was around. Because before then, MCI Center next to it, where the movie theater is now, it used to just be an empty spot with a whole lot of construction going on. So in a way, it kind of kept the Chinese restaurants busy without having to compete with other American restaurants.
Welcome them, because in Chinatown before, that 20, 30 years ago, Chinatown is not safe. It's rained down. Washington, D.C. is not just for Chinese. So Chinatown is not just for Chinese. But we stay here is because Jewish German, before they're here, they move out. So that time, the Chinese people move here from the Pennsylvania Avenue, because Pennsylvania make developer to wider street, and they renovate the whole area. And once they get in there, everything's so expensive. So Chinese move here. Maybe 10 years, 20 years, maybe more Chinese people come here. They all depend. This world is turning round.
As Chinatown was populated with mainstream retail businesses and its residents were displaced, its sense of culture also began to wane. Efforts to maintain that culture have now taken center stage among Chinatown's inhabitants. Organizations such as the Chinese Community Cultural Center try to address this by offering lessons in Chinese culture.
That Chinatown Community Culture Center is trying to preserve the tradition of Chinatown in sort of in the modern right now what we're having. As you already know, you have martial arts and all sorts of stuff, Chinese stuff, and even if you don't live here on this area, you might come from other area of Washington D.C. or maybe even Maryland, and you might do some activity in Chinatown Community Culture Center. So it kind of like that's what they're for,
They're coming and joining with us to learn Chinese writing, painting, and they go see some movie about Chinese movie. They learn more about Chinese culture. I think that's very good.
Though preserving culture is important, there's also the consideration of how cultural elements combine with the business aspects of Chinatown and how they affect each other.
Can we do things to change it, to make it like it was? Of course not. It's not going to happen because money overrides culture, and that's what's happening. Money overridden culture, and now Chinatown's only a theme. It's no longer the elements of Chinatown are completely gone. There's really, if you really look at it, there's really no money in preserving culture. There isn't. Some people argue that, oh yeah, we can preserve culture, but it's not going to happen. You're not going to have the authentic culture there. You're going to have a synthetic, a commercialized version of culture, but the real thing is gone because there's no money in the real thing.
Culture and business are two essential aspects of any community. Here in Chinatown, these two elements are in constant competition as community members try to strike a balance. How effectively they will coexist in the future is uncertain, but the ultimate goal is to allow businesses to thrive without usurping the importance of cultural tradition.